Nestled in the far reaches of northwestern Connecticut, high up on a mountain, lies a huge, shaded, beautiful forest, dubbed the Dark Entry Forest. Inside the forest lay the ruins of Dudleytown, a small village that has a history shrouded in mystery and misfortune. Once a thriving community, the village is now nothing more than a collection of ruins, a ghost town that has been lost to time. But the land where Dudleytown once stood is far from empty, as the twisted stories of ghosts, demons, and unexplained mysteries that surround the area date back to the very beginnings of the founding of America. In the early days of colonial expansion, a man by the name of Thomas Griffiths claimed ownership of a vast tract of land in the remote northwestern region of Connecticut, holding title to half of the forested area of Dark Entry Forest in 1741. A few short years later, the arrival of a man named Gideon Dudley would mark the establishment of a village on that land, and thus, it was named Dudleytown after him. But with the coming of Gideon and his brothers, a dark legend was born. Over time, the Dudley family would be forever associated with a curse that seemed to linger over the land, bringing misfortune to all who dared to call it home. As the folklore goes, anyone who dared to call the ruins of Dudleytown their home would face unspeakable misfortune, from suicides to possessions by demonic entities, and all manner of eerie occurrences have been reported to have happened in this cursed land. The origins of this curse date back to the 16th century in England, when Edmund Dudley, a member of the Dudley family, was executed for his involvement in a scheme to overthrow King Henry VIII. It is said that at that moment, a curse was placed upon the Dudley bloodline, cursing all of their descendants to a lifetime of horror and death. Those who believe in the curse claim that the Dudleys have been plagued by a series of uncanny misfortunes ever since. Later on, Edmund's son, John Dudley, attempted to secure the British throne by arranging for his son, Guilford, to marry Lady Jane Grey, the next in line to the crown. Though they briefly held the throne, their reign was short-lived and ended in the execution of both Lady Jane Grey, the 9 Days Queen, and the Dudleys by Queen Mary I, also known as Bloody Mary. To add insult to injury, Guilford's brother returned from France, bringing with him a deadly plague that spread rapidly through the soldiers and eventually the entire country, claiming thousands of lives. John Dudley's third son, Robert, Earl of Leicester, a favorite of Queen Elizabeth I, had a premonition of the looming doom that seemed to follow his family. He wisely chose to abandon England and venture to the New World. His foresight would prove to be a blessing, as it was one of his descendants, William, who found a new home in the town of Guilford, Connecticut. However, the curse seemed to have followed them, as 3 of William's descendants, Abiel, Barzillai, and Gideon, later purchased a piece of land in the Cornwall Township, where strange and mysterious events began to happen. In the year 1792, a tragic event occurred in the life of Abiel Dudley's close friend and neighbor, Gershon Hollister. Hollister was either killed or suffered a severe fall while constructing a barn at William Tanner's residence. No one knows for sure. William Tanner, Abiel's closest neighbor, was rumored to have lost his mind. However, it is believed that his descent into madness was caused by his advanced age and mental deterioration rather than supernatural forces. Despite living to the ripe age of 104, records indicate that he was slightly demented at the time of his passing. Nevertheless, there have been whispers of Tanner telling other townsfolk about strange creatures emerging from the woods during the night. In 1759, the Nathaniel Carter family made the fateful decision to relocate to Dudleytown and take up residence in a house that had once belonged to Abiel Dudley before he became a ward of the town. A dark and deadly plague swept through Dudleytown and the neighboring Cornwall, claiming the lives of the Adoniram Carter family who were relatives of Nathaniel. Devastated by the loss, the Nathaniel Carter family moved to Binghamton, New York from Dudleytown in 1763. Those who believe in the curse claim that the taint of Dudleytown followed them. The Carters relocated to the Delaware wilderness, deep in the heart of Indian Territory. But their luck did not improve, as they were attacked by natives, resulting in the brutal murder of Nathaniel, his wife, and an infant child. The remaining 3 children were abducted and taken to Canada, where 2 of the daughters were eventually ransomed. One of the residents of the region was General Herman Swift, a veteran of the Revolutionary War, who served under the leadership of George Washington. However, fate dealt him a cruel blow in 1804 when his wife, Sarah Fay, met a tragic end while standing on the porch of their home near Dudleytown. She was struck dead by a bolt of lightning. The general, overcome with grief by the loss of his wife, was driven to the brink of insanity and soon followed her in death. As the years went by, Dudleytown gradually fell into decline and the villagers began to flee. The eventual demise of the town came as no surprise. In 1901, the population of Dudleytown had dwindled to a mere handful of residents. One of the last inhabitants was a man named John Patrick Brophy. Tragedy struck him swiftly and in multiple blows. First, his wife passed away from tuberculosis, which was not uncommon in those days. However, the grief did not end there, as his 2 children vanished into the forest not long after the funeral. There was no evidence to suggest they left of their own accord. Shortly after, the Brophy's house was engulfed in an unexplained fire. Then Brophy himself disappeared into the forest and was never seen again. It was at this point that Dudleytown officially became a ghost town. It was around this time that Dr. Clark, a doctor and professor of surgery, came to Cornwall and fell in love with the forest and the peaceful country life. Dr. Clark purchased 1,000 acres of land in the wilderness of Connecticut, which included Dudleytown, and began building a summer and vacation home. Over the next few years, he and his wife, Harriet Clark, visited the house on weekends and during the summer, until it was completed. After that, it became mostly a holiday home for short trips in the summer and for Thanksgiving. Together, they maintained a secluded second life in Dudleytown until 1918. One summer weekend, Dr. Clark was called away to New York on an emergency. His wife stayed behind, and according to the story, when he returned 36 hours later, he found his front door open. As he entered the house, he was overcome by a screeching noise coming from the second floor. He soon realized that the sound was evil, deranged laughter coming from his wife. She had gone completely insane and told stories of strange creatures coming out of the forest and attacking her. From that day on, Dr. Clark never returned to Dudleytown, and the house remained abandoned. Rumors and stories surround the fate of Dr. Clark's wife. Some claim she was overcome with madness and took her own life soon after the incident. Others suggest that she left Dudleytown with Dr. Clark and met her demise in New York. The curse of Dudleytown had claimed yet another victim. But how much truth really lies within the tales of Dudleytown? Theories and legends swirl, but only a select few have ever ventured into the forbidden forest. The Dark Forest Entry Association still holds ownership over most of the land where the village once stood, and access to the Dark Entry Forest is strictly prohibited, whether it be due to conservation efforts or to keep people away from the cursed town. No one knows for sure. Those who have managed to enter, however, speak of ghostly apparitions caught on camera, overwhelming feelings of terror, mysterious lights, sounds, and even physical interactions with unseen hands. Some paranormal experts believe the area to be a portal to the unknown, a gateway to a realm beyond our own. As the day fades into night and the darkness creeps in, an eerie sensation lingers in the air. The curse of Dudleytown, a legend whispered for centuries. Some say it's waiting for its next unsuspecting prey, ready to strike when least expected.